all the details about the Docker network, Docker volume and all, right? We saw how we can store the data, container data into the host port, into the host, right, local host or in your machine where your Docker is running. So today I'll show you how we can create our own image. That's most important because that is what you have to write the template to create your own image based on your requirement. Okay, that is how you have to create the container out of that. So let's see. And to know how to create that, before that we should learn something on Dockerfile. Okay, so let me share my screen and then we'll just move forward and learn all this. Okay, so now, what is the Docker file? So that is very important topics on Docker to know the Docker file and create your own image. And the Docker file has their own few commands. While writing the Docker file, you have to use those commands. Okay. So what it says, a Docker file is a text document that contains all the commands a user could call on the command line to assemble an image. Okay, so the Docker build command builds an image from Dockerfile and a context. So here two things I'm going to teach you today. One is the context path or context area. One is the Docker file and the related commands. Okay, so what happens? How the Docker image, how the image is gets created. Okay, so how the images get created. So one thing is the Docker daemon runs the instructions in the Docker file one by one. So Docker daemon is the Docker engine, right? Docker daemon takes the responsibility to create the image. Also, it has responsibility to create the container. So what? How does it work? Actually, how does the image gets created? The Docker daemon runs the instructions in the Docker file one by one. So Docker file is a text document which contains all the commands, right? Whatever the template, whatever the commands you're going to execute, everything will be there inside the Docker file. So Docker daemon reads the Docker file, checks the commands and execute it one by one and committing the result of each instruction to a new image if necessary before the final outputting ID for a new image. Okay, that will see how it is actually working. All the details step by steps and how the memory, how the caches, right? Uh, Docker image is getting used from the cache and all. I will see this one. So whenever possible, Docker will reuse the immediate images that is called cache. Okay, immediate images to accelerate the Docker build process significantly. So while building the Docker image, right? When we are building the Docker image, if it is a totally new image and it has lots of instructions into the Docker file, and sometimes what will happen, it will take a few minutes to build the entire Docker file, run the entire Docker file and create the image. Okay. So what happens, Docker by default, actually what happens, it reuse the intermediate images, that is the cache. Okay. So when you have run the first image, it will store all the details in the memory in the cache. So next time when you build it, it will get it from the cache, so that what will happen, it will accelerate the speed of building the image. That is what we have to see it. So that's all about this Docker file. But the thing is how we have to write the Docker file. Okay, so here is the Docker. It's a very few commands are there, guys. Only these two commands is Docker build hyphen T. Okay, hyphen T, and just give the image name Docker build. So to build the image, this is the only one command you have to use. Docker build and the image name. Okay, so I'll show you all this example and let's do. So here is a sample Docker files. Okay, before that, let me just log into the first machine.
A small doubt, Ranjit.
Yes,
Actually, when you are doing commit to of your images, will it store into your repository or how it will go?
no, no, it will be created locally. It will be stored locally.
Locally.
Locally. Then you have to
Okay.
push that one to the repository, okay, to the GitHub account, sorry, to the Docker Hub account, right? Docker Hub registry.
Okay.
I'll show you today how,
Okay.
once we create the image, right? I'll show you today how you can push that image to the Docker registry.
Okay. Okay. Because I think previous class you have given when you were doing commit, you have given your Docker Hub ID, right?
Yes,
Ranjit for Docker. So
yes.
I thought it will try to create.
No, 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 no. So why I gave it, because that will be used to store into that account. That is why I just created the image with that account. If you don't give also, that's fine, not a problem. But while pushing it to the Docker registry, it will throw error. Okay, so you have to create like that. I'll just show you. Don't worry. I'll just show you the details how we can do that. Okay, today while
Okay.
creating that, I'll show you. Oops, I have terminated it yesterday. I think I have terminated the machine yesterday. Okay.
Oh, okay, okay. Maybe by mistake you did.
Yeah, I terminated. Instead of stopping, I think I terminated yesterday.
Terminated. Okay, okay.
Okay, fine. So let me not to waste time to create and install it again. So what I can do it from my local machine, from my laptop. Okay. So, it's okay. So okay, Docker is installed in my machine. Let me see if there are images available. Docker image. Oops, lots of images are there. Okay, there are a few related to Kubernetes. Okay, and there are a few which are the Nginx. Let me delete. Okay, let it there. Lots of images are there, and let's see if any containers are running. Docker container ls -inf. Okay, good. There are no containers are running. Okay, fine. So what we'll do today? Today we'll just see to create our own image. Okay, so we have to write the Docker file. Let me just. Okay. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to create a Docker file. Okay. So as I said, Docker file is a text document. Okay. So it contains all the commands and the instructions which is required the image to build, and the container use that image to create the container. The container image use the steps and templates whatever are there in the image binary to run the applications, right? So what I'm going to do now, let's easily create some, suppose I'll just create one, give a Docker file name as, remember like Jenkins file, right? We used to write jcaps and Jenkins file. Similarly, we have to write here Docker file. It should be written as Docker file. Okay, and let's do that. Enter. How will write the Docker file? There is a small sample example here. So what happens? Docker runs instructions in a Docker file in order, one by another, right? One after another, it orders. So a Docker file must begin with a from instructions. That means from BG box. Okay, suppose here I am given from BG box. That means this BG box is my base image. Remember, there will be a questions, interview questions, you may get it, right? So how? So when you write the Docker file, the first statement itself, we start with from. That means from the base image, we are adding these three layers. That means this will be the BG box. So BG box is nothing but an inbuilt image also. From BG box, if you see this BG box, it is actually a, one second, a small no image which holds all the Unix utility commands. Okay, so BG box, it's very tiny image. BG box. Okay, this is the official image of BG box. So what it is, the BG box. So coming in new versions 1 to 5 mpm disks, that is okay. So BG box combines a tiny version of many common Unix utilities, a single small executables. Okay, so what happens? It holds all the, it holds maximum or many Unix utilities commands. Okay, that image. So if you see more details about the image, how to use, you can see how to use the image, and the details. If you just go to the tags, you can find out the Docker file of that particular image. Okay, suppose this latest, I want to see the Docker file, how it is being written. See, this is what the Docker file, only two commands. One is add file and cd and cmd command, sh command, they are going to execute it. That is what in this file. But let's do a small Docker file which will create the image. But this image will write as per our requirement. Okay, so let me just copy this example. So guys, what I'm going to do it here, I'm going to create an image from the base image bgbox, going to copy test.sh to the var folder of the container, then working directory I'm going to make is /var. So we'll be thinking like, what is this copy? These are the from, copy, work, dir, cmd. These are the docker file commands. Remember, these are the docker file commands. Docker command is different and docker file command is different. So these are the docker file commands. When we build the Docker file, it will execute these commands, and these commands will be executed and it will create the image. Okay, now what will happen? So we have given the working directory. Let me show you the Docker file details, more details on the Docker file.
Ranjit, one question here.
Yeah, please tell me.
Hello.
Yeah, please.
In BGBox like that, in BGBox, means is it contain all the templates, or how it is like that in when you are in Java or C++, something like that, or something like that, you go for a C++, there is a base class. In base class you are inheriting something from base class to means child class, like that. um, BG class also same thing, something like that, already made it with some templates or some, like take a example like that. Car is a base class.
Mhm.
From car you can inherent it's like that ABS or something like that,
Yes.
um, um,
So here,
air something air,
yeah, yes, I understood whatever what is your question now. See, the BG box,
yeah,
what
yeah.
I'm going to use, we are going to create our own image. Okay, so BG box is the base image.
Okay,
That means your parent object. Okay, parent class. Suppose you need, if you're talking about this
okay,
Java or C++ or whatever is that class hierarchy. So suppose think about
yeah,
this
yeah.
blocks is a class, and I'm going to create an object out of that class. So what I'm going to do? I'm going to the child class or object from that class. So that bgbox will be my parent class. Okay. Here that's why I told
Okay,
bgbox will be our base image or base class. Okay. Bgbox is the base class.
okay,
On top of that, I'm going to add few layers. That means I'm going to inherit some properties from bgbox. Bgbox is the default
okay.
image of base image, and add few more details or few more activity on that bgbox. So that what will happen, our image whenever it will be created will have all
Mhm.
the details of bgbox with our extra details what we add it. Okay.
Okay, I got it. Means some of the like that, your new feature you can add it here in BGBox. Whatever writing from our side, we can write it in new, and some inherent something things from BGBox.
Exactly.
Okay. What are things in BGBox that can be inherent?
So the BGBox is an image, and what it contains, it contains actually the one second. It contains all the Unix utilities. That means what is Unix utilities? It contains all the Unix commands. It contains all the Unix
Okay.
commands. So we'll use that commands to execute our task. Okay. So what it says, BGBox.
Okay. For example, you write that one.
Sorry.
1 minute. You write there CMD work directory, something like that. You written that all the things that already defined in BGBox, I think.
No, that is mine. So this is my base image, right? This is the base image, this is
Okay.
the base class. And whatever I am going to write, this is my
Okay.
one task I'm going to write. And this will be executed
Yeah,
as,
yeah. That that is task, I know. Copy something like that command you written. Copy.
yes.
yeah, copy. How can this? How can he can identify that one? How it is? Uh, how that copy will be doing the some of the task? How he can come to know
Who will know?
that? No, if you copy test.sh,
Uh,
what he will do?
who will do what? BGBox?
Somehow that command will, BGBox. No, not BGBox. You are inherent with the BGBox, na here.
See, I'm going
Hmm.
to use BGBox. On top of that, I'm
Okay.
going to use few commands. So this copy working directory and CMD is not BGBox command. Remember, guys, I told you
Okay.
these are
Hmm.
Dockerfile commands. These are Dockerfile commands.
Okay.
And what I'm going to use here,
Hmm.
I'm going to use sh. sh is a shell interpreter of BGBox. Remember? And in this BGBox sh, I'm going to execute a script. Going to execute a script. That is what my
Okay.
requirement.
Hmm.
My requirement, and suppose I'm going to write a script and want to display something on a container. On a container, I want to execute a script inside a container and display the result. Display the
Okay.
result, right? So what I have written, I have written a small script outside of the I have written my local host. While I build this image, what will happen? Let me just explain you. When I build this image, this Docker file, it will first pull the BGBox from registry. It will first pull the BGBox from registry. That means this base image will be pulled from the Docker Hub, and then what will happen? It will the Dockerfile command will copy the test.sh, which I'm going to create now, that script to the slash
Where?
var. So
Okay.
that means
Hmm.
that will be the script will be copied to the var folder of the container. Okay, then working directory. That means it will change the working directory. So when the container will start, it will start from this folder. It will start from this folder. And then cmd command, what will do, we have written it here to execute the script on this working directory. Before that we have
And this,
already copied.
yeah, I think this bare folder, all the template will be copying from the BGBox. I think this folders and all the templates from base image.
It will be available already in the base image. See,
Okay,
this
then
part,
we inherent this where, yeah, the template you are using, then we are copying our command Docker command line to where folder.
yeah.
Okay, I got it.
So when you create a container, it will have this
Mm.
BGBox already have a class var folder. Okay, if you don't
Means
have,
here,
yes,
yeah, I mean, means you no need to create again this whatever the where folder or directory, everything we can inherent from the base image, same templates.
you can use that one same template. Okay, if you okay there is, if
Yeah.
there is a requirement, you don't want to use the var folder. If you don't want to
Okay.
use the var folder, what if suppose there will be some project specific folder you need to create, then you have to
Okay. Mhm.
use make directory command or create directory command to create a directory, then copy the file to that
Okay.
directory. You can create also. Okay,
Mhm.
you can create a
Mhm.
directory and then copy that to that particular directory and then execute it. Let me just
Okay.
execute this command, then I'll show you how how it really works. Okay,
Okay.
this is very simple. This is only 1% whatever I have just told you. There are many things to learn from the Docker file. There are many commands. Okay, so whatever the commands I just showed you here from copy, work, dir, cmd, same thing. I just opened this. Okay, use this one. This is the Docker file reference. I'll just ping you. Okay, use that one for your reference. Okay, So the commands, okay, so you'll find where the command I'll get it. Here it has all the commands one after another. Okay, so if you go here and check here, from is there. Okay, so what is from? You have to just click on this and you'll find from. It will give the from instruction initialize new build stage and sets the base image for subsequent instructions. As such, a valid Docker file must start with from instruction. A valid Docker file must start with from instructions. Okay, you start with from you have to provide a base image. Here some example it has they have given. Okay, so base image. Then it has a run command. What is the use of run command? Let me explain these commands and then we'll use in the Docker file. These run commands, what it will do, it will run some shell commands. If you want to execute something, some executable, the run instruction will execute any commands in a new layer on top of the current image. Suppose our current image is the BG box. On top of that, if you are going to install something, going to run something, you can use run command to do that. Same thing, we can see it here. Okay.
Yeah, I have one doubt
Yeah, please.
because I'm traveling. Maybe I have not like no hear anything. So I need to know what is the use of BG box. Maybe you have already explained or not. Because I joined a little late. Yeah.
Yeah. So BG box actually is nothing but a tiny version of many Unix common utility. So what about the common Unix commands are there like cd, cmd, like grep, find, right, ls, all these commands, right, rm, make directory, cp, all these Unix utilities commands are available in this image. So we can use this image to execute something. It's not only for this image. So BGBox actually very tiny, very small image to start with an example. This is just a simple, I'm going to show you just using it. But there are many images. Even if you are going to use your web application, suppose for a Java application, you are going to create your own image. This is just simple example I started with. Don't go get confused with this BGBox. No, we are not going to use with all the time BGBox. No, this is a small example to execute a script or something. I showed you how to write the Docker file. But think about a project, real-time project. Suppose you are going to work on a Java project and you are have to deploy your project inside a container. You have to deploy the project inside a container. That time what you have to do, you have to write your own image. And that time you have to get your base image as Tomcat. Base image means from Tomcat. Tomcat will be your.
Because let's I have one project in the Jenkins.
uh,
So in that case, how we have to like configure in for the Docker?
that I'll show you. Let me finish the Docker first, then I'll show you how to configure this Jenkins and Docker. Okay, that I'll show you later.
Okay, okay. Thank you.
Okay, so this is how you have to use it. The first thing is you have to first understand these commands. What is the use of run command? Run command to execute something, right? If you use uh, run bash, bin bash, and -c, and just whatever you want to execute, you can just execute it here. See, like this. The use of run commands to execute something in the container. Okay, here you can see. Then after that comes CMD. CMD also the same thing you have to do. Command, there can be only CMD instructions in a only one CMD instruction in a command. There is very good differences are there, and interview questions I'll just explain you CMD and entry point and a lot of more things are there. Okay, so what will happen here? Exit from, if you want to use cmd, see only one cmd will be there. It will be also, cmd means command, right, to execute some commands, to execute something you have to use the cmd. And if you want to from ubuntu, see, if you see this piece of sample, what is happened here, it just have used from ubuntu. That means ubuntu they take as the base image. Ubuntu is an operating system, OS, right? So they are going to use Ubuntu as their base image. On top of that, another requirement is I'm going to create a container will have the OS as Ubuntu or CentOS. On top of that, I need few applications to be installed. I need few applications to be installed. What I'll do, I can use from Ubuntu, then I can use many other commands, cmd run to install something. To install something, I can use run command. Okay, let me just explain you everything. If I when we do one or two, three Docker files, you will clearly understand. Meanwhile, just try to know how these commands are being used in the Docker file. Similarly, we have labels also. Label just to give a label to the and declare some variables. What it said, the label instructions adds metadata to an image. So it is in a key value pair. It is just give a label to the container, okay, to the image. Give the label. Similarly, we have expose, right? What port you are going to expose, right? So while you were running a container, I had told you to use -p, right? That is means publish. To publish the port, container port to the outside port. Okay, so that's how we had used the -p flag in the Docker run. So what is this expose? Means we are going to expose the container port to the outside. If you don't expose it to the container, we cannot able to connect to the container. Okay, what is such? The expose instructions informs Docker that container listens on the specified network ports at runtime. So you can specify whether the port listens to TCP or UDP by giving /AT/UDP. Suppose we are going to create an image of HTTPD. That time, instead of by default is exposures actually 80. Okay, if you see the HTTPD image, right, Apache image, the Docker file of Apache image, you'll find it out how it exposes the port. Okay, so just go to the any tags, find out this latest. See, this is the entire image layers. This is the image layers of the Docker file. It has CMD, all this environment variable commands, work directory. Okay, all these are there. See, see, it uses expose. It uses expose 80. That means the container is going to use the port as 80. If you want to expose 90, then you have to use 90. Whatever port you want to expose, you can expose it. After that, it uses the command httpd foreground. That is why the httpd server running on the foreground itself. Okay, all these details, whatever is written here, it will be confusing to you, but don't worry. Once we finish this Dockerfile commands and we create one or two Docker files or one or two images, you will be good enough to understand all the Dockerfile commands. Meanwhile, you have to just go through all these Dockerfile commands and try to understand what is there. There is not much commands, okay, only 10 to 15 are there. See, expose, env, add, copy, entry point, volume, user, work directory, arg, all these, unbuild, stop, signal, cell. That's all. Only 1 2 3 4, only 15 commands are there. Okay, so you have to be only 10 to 15. Within 10 to 15 commands are there, you're going to use it. And this is very simple. Once you create this, that's once you create one or two images, you will be good enough to write your own Docker file whenever it is required. It's so simple. Okay, let's start with something. Okay, what I'm going to do, I just simple things I just created from BGBox, copy test.sh/var work directory. Why I used BGBox? Because it is very tiny, it will take less time to build our image. Instead of BGBox, I can use Ubuntu also, because I need a shell platform to execute my script. My requirement is to execute the script, to create a container which will execute the script. That is what my requirement. Okay, either I can use Ubuntu CentOS as my base image. If I use Ubuntu, it will be heavier because the Ubuntu size is literally higher than, it's more higher than BGBox. BGBox will be some few KBs, 1 or 2 KBs or 1 MB or 2 MB, max or 5 MB. But Ubuntu, it will be more than 500 MB, the image size. Okay. If I use Ubuntu 500, it will take lots of time to download that Ubuntu image, base image, and execute all this, right? Instead, I can, because our requirement is to execute a script, why should I go for the heavier size? If I am going to transport a suitcase, I can use only cycle or scooter or bike, right? I don't need a truck or heavy container cargo to transport my suitcase. Similarly, my requirement is very tiny, very small. I can use BGBox to get achieve of this. Then why should I go for Ubuntu, right? That is how you have to understand the requirement first. Based on that, you have to use it. Okay. Now let me save it. What are we are going to do this? We created the Docker file. Okay. Now let me create the test.sh. This is the script I'm going to execute it, right? Suppose anything you can write echo. Okay, I just wrote simple commands. Okay, and if you want to see the working directory, let me just use pwd. These are the commands going to execute on the container. So BGBox will have already these utilities. Pwd command is already there in the BGBox. Who am I should be there. Uname is the command. Date is the command. So these are the commands. Echo is the command. So these are the commands going to be executed on the container. Okay, let me save this one. Sorry. Okay.
So one more doubt.
Yeah, please.
Let's say I'm giving that the form Ubuntu. So I have to mention all the Ubuntu related package.
Ubuntu related package. What package I'm going? We are not going.
Let's say now you are giving the BG box. Let's say from the BG box all the whatever you have mentioned in the uname
Uh-huh.
and date
These are the
and
commands.
commands, right?
Yeah. So the same commands will work.
Commands, right? So all the commands are fetching from the BG box, correct?
Yes.
And the similar way, suppose I want to mention in Ubuntu
Uh-huh.
or CentOS
Mhm.
or whatever operating system, the similar way I have to mention in the test.sh the same command, correct?
Yes, obviously, if you are using, see, if you are using a different image, suppose you are using Windows image, and based on the image, you have to specify the command. You have to use the PowerShell command or batch command in your script. If you are using some other environment and suppose different image and that will not have these utilities available, then it will throw error. It will not display anything, right? This VG box is a small Unix utilities image, right? It contains all the Unix utilities. Maximum Unix utilities are there. So Ubuntu also same as a Unix image only, right? Unix or Linux image. The same commands also being executed can be executed on the Ubuntu machine, Ubuntu image. So yes, whatever the image, base image you are using, based on that you have to write the commands to execute it, or else it will not work. Or else it will not work. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now what is we are going to do now? I created the test.sh. Okay. So how we can execute this Docker file? That is, we need to know it. Okay. So if you follow the Dockerfile documentations, there you will find in the beginning itself they have given the usage. Docker build dot is nothing but the current context. Okay, so let's see how we can build using this. Okay, now I'm going to build it. Just let me show you. You have to use command called docker build. Okay, docker build, and you can use this dot. It will, what it will do, it will take the docker file from the current context or current folder. Okay, here it is available. If the docker file is available in a different place, then you can use -f option and then path, give that path and give the docker file dot, then it will get the docker file from that particular path. Okay, this is what it is given in the example also. It is given in the example also, path to a docker file then dot. Okay, so two ways. If you are in the same context path, then you can execute directly, give dot and it will build it. So with docker build, I have to give my unique name to it, specify my name to it. So I can use -t to give a tag to it. Okay, suppose I'll use as this tag as uh, what you can see here, they have given sites and /myapp. So you can specify a repository and tag at which to save new image if the build is succeed. So you have to specify the repository. So Docker Hub repository you have to specify. If you have already a repository, either it's Docker Hub repository, or you have a similar repository in your organization, you can mention it. Okay, then you can mention its sites and the /myapp. Similarly, last class I had used my own repositories, that is called Docker for Ranjit, right? Then slash, I can give a name to this, just, or I can just see the image name as uh, ad hoc image. I just gave this image name as ad hoc image. I can give a tag to it, version 1.0. Just give dot. So what it does, docker build command, and I gave a name to it. First is the registry, which repository name we are going to add it, and then image name, what will be your image name, and then tag. Then I gave dot. This means it will build the image from the current path, or current context. So what is a context, that we need to understand first. Let me hit enter. Let's see, I'll just explain you more. Okay, what it says. So image name should be lowercase. Okay, it should not be. I just gave add I in capital, right? That's why it did not take it. So it should give us,
Smaller.
yeah. Now see, it is finished. If you see these things, what happened here? It is first loading it from the Docker file. Load build definition from a Docker file. So then what is this? The Docker file only 110 KB. So we don't have any Docker ignore. So what is this Docker ignore? It is actually hidden file. I'll just explain you after this. The context is 2 byte. So what is this context path? Let me explain you. The context path is nothing but where your Docker file is available. In this folder, in this path, Docker file is available. So this area will be your context area. So when you execute this Docker build command, whatever details available in the context area will be built and create an image. Everything will be added to the image. So it is very important to understand which are the things do you need to add into the image and which are the things you don't need to add into the image. Then you remove those details from the context area. So if you don't remove it, what will happen? It will don't cause any problem, but the thing is it will add extra weight, extra size to the image. Suppose here in my context area, I have only test.sh file is there, nothing are there. If I keep some video, image or something which is not necessary for my image to be to be built, if I keep it there and execute this command, what will happen? Whatever the context area size, suppose if I put 2 GB of image or 2 GB of file documents which is not necessary, which is not required, all this context, everything will be transferred to the image. See, transferring context 1 byte, all these things to the image. Okay, that will make your image heavy. It will increase your image size. Okay, now what happens here? If you see these logs, first step, it has 3 layers, right? It has 3 layers. One is from BGBox. Then what happens? It just copied the test.sh to the var and then set that working directory as /var. Okay. Now let me see what is the Docker image just created, right? Docker image ls. Oops, it has lots of images. Okay, so first we have this Docker image. See, Docker for Ranjit, I just gave a name as ad hoc image and then tag is 1.0. Let me reduce the size. Okay, so if you see it here, it gives Docker Ranjit ad hoc image, the image name, tag 1.0. I had given image ID, created 3 minutes ago, and size is only 1.24 MB. It is only 1.24 MB. If I use Ubuntu, think about that. If I use for this task, if I use Ubuntu, that will make my image heavier. Ubuntu itself, it will be more than 400 MB or 500 MB. Okay, it will increase the image size. Okay, now let's sorry, let's see, the image is now created. So what we'll do next, we built our own image. Okay, now let's create a container out of this image. This is, that is our ultimate goal, right? We need to create a container out of this image. That will be my final thing, right? So what is the command? Docker container, okay, run, then just give the image, okay, 1.0. I did not give any name, I did not give anything. So I just display, because I want this to display in the command. So when I create this, what will happen when I execute it? it will just create a container out of this image. Okay, hit enter. See what it says. I am inside the container. I stay here in Linux. So BGBox is a Linux environment. That's why when I say uname, it gave the Linux environment. Root, I had given who am I, right? It execute the command root, and today is the date January 18. I got it from the that container, and this is the slash var, the working directory. Okay, now if I see, so this is the other container. I need the script to be executed. Okay, I need the script to execute it. That's why I just use this to execute the create the container and execute the script. So where the script executed inside the container. The script executed inside the container. Okay. Now, if I see what is the container we have, see, you have the container ID. This is the image used to create the container. So what is the command executed? This is what we had given in our Docker file to execute this command. So, okay, exited. There you go.
A small doubt here, Ranjit.
Yeah, please.
Why it is not showing in when you do ls? Why it is showing when you do ls -a? Because it should run, right?
No, why it should run?
I think so. The container just executed the script and
Yes,
exited.
yes.
Is it?
That is what, yeah, that is what the other container we need. We don't need the container to run. When we need the container to run, if an application, we need an application to be run inside a container all the time, then we have to write the command similarly like httpd. We have to execute a command run foreground. That means it will be running every time, right? It will never exit the container. But in our case, we don't need the container to be running all the time because we need the script to be executed and then stop. Okay, let me little modify the script. Let me little modify the script. So what will happen?
Ranjit,
Yes.
yeah, this ss dot test dot sh that command, it was in image file only, na?
Exactly. It was in the image file.
Okay,
So when we run that image, that executed inside the
okay,
container.
okay. Image, we call the image file here now
Yes, we
by
used image file.
by uh,
We used image file to
yeah,
create the container.
okay. Okay.
So when we create
Then
the container, okay,
okay.
can you tell me what will happen when I execute this? What will happen when I
Yes, yes.
execute this command? What will happen? Can you explain me?
This Docker content run can call this image file, I think, where the repository Docker hub you already where the image file is stored.
Yeah. Okay.
This ad hoc.
Okay. Let
It
me do that.
it will go there and
No, no, let me tell. Let me. That is the fun thing.
yeah, yeah.
Okay. So when we execute it, it first get this image. So when we use that image to create the container, what will happen? This will run the template, the image, the recipe, right? Whatever Docker file. When we wrote the Docker file, we had given some instructions, some template we have written, right? That will be executed one after another. So when the container gets created, first it will copy the script. First it will copy the script test.sh to the var folder. Then it will make the var folder as working directory. Then it will use the cmd command, execute the cmd command to run the test.sh script. Okay, let me simply modify the script and you'll understand now what I'm.
So one more doubt.
Yeah, please tell me.
You have given your Docker Hub Ranjit for that, and then Flash ad hoc, and then you have given for dot. So I think you should give the tag name, right?
That is what I told initially, right? So when I give dot
Uh,
name, what is happen? It will take the current context, current path where the Docker file is available. We no need to specify the Docker file name or anything. You have to only mention the dot. That means it will take the current context, current path. If you have kept the Docker file some other location, then you have to specify -f option, give the path name. That is what in the beginning I told you, right? You have to specify it. Okay, Vidu, got it?
You was traveling somehow in a metro. Sometime it is network will be there, network will be not there.
Okay, okay, maybe that's why he's not seeing all these details. Okay, fine.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, guys. So what I'm going to do it here, my new requirement now comes. Okay. Suppose in my team, I need a few things to modify the image. My project, my container is running, my application is running, it's
yes,
ready.
yes.
Yes, we will.
Sometimes I'm getting network issue.
Uh, okay, okay, fine, Vidu. Okay.
Yeah.
So here, sometimes what will happen in the real time, you have to modify your image based on your requirement changes. Now my requirement changes, I have to add a sleep command to sleep the container, right? Let me add it. Suppose 60 seconds I want the container to sleep. I added sleep to the script. Okay, so what will happen? I'm going to do some scenario, you have to tell me the answer. Okay, now I'm going to run the command again.
Yeah, Ranjit, we need to create again the image, right?
Okay, sorry, I couldn't get it.
Shall we, because we
That's the
modified
question.
that,
That's the question actually to everyone.
Image is not need to create, I think.
Sorry.
You have to change in container file. You have to run the container, I think.
Yeah, I ran the container, right? I just
container only.
I run
Yeah,
the container
yeah.
and it executed the script, but it did not executed the modified
Sleep.
script. It did not executed the
Uh,
modified script, sleep command. So what I need to do now?
Maybe we need to create image again, so that that image will be having the latest that test.sh file. Then we can create. That
Exactly,
means container we can create out of that.
exactly. So we have to rebuild the Docker file. We have to
Rebuild.
rebuild the image. Okay, we have to rebuild the image. So what will happen? I just use it Docker build -t Docker for Ranjit. Then I give the same name, ad hoc image, no different name, but I have to use here a different version 1.1. Okay, then current context dot. See, it is already cached. It is already cached. So the base is from the base image. It is already cached. So it is got it from, and it took only 0 second. Quickly got it right. So and it created a different name as Adak image 1.1. So if I see here Docker image ls,
Here we will not change it any image file. Why you need again build the image file?
sorry, we did not change any image file, right?
Image, yeah. Again, why you need to build again image? Because anyway, same image only we can use it, na?
Okay. So when we built, that's a good question actually. We did not change anything to the Docker file, but the Docker file has some instruction to copy the test.sh to the copy test.sh script to the var folder, and that image is already built. That image is already built, and now the image is the binary, right? It already contains the test.sh inside it. It will not use the test.sh locally. It is already taken and it is already packaged inside it. This image is now is having old test.sh. This image is now having old test.sh, and this image is now having new test.sh inside it. New test.sh inside it. Okay. Now if I simply use this, what will happen? See, now it is executed the sleep command. If I
Yeah.
go and check, let me quickly get another terminal, and here if I do
Docker container
Docker
ls,
container ls, it
it
will
will be running.
see it is up and running. Same thing, due to the sleep command, it is now running. I can, if I want to go inside the container, this container VGBugs also, I can go inside the container. Okay, so I can just do Docker. Within 1 minute, I have to go, or else it will be come out, right? Docker
Yeah.
uh,
Execute.
container exit
Exe.
hyphen it container ID bin box.
Bus.
Okay, so the container has already gone. I think it's not there.
It's time got over.
Yeah, time get over. So let me run the container again. Okay, so let me run the container again. Okay, so I quickly go here and do exit hyphen it container ID, right? It's gone already. OSI runtime exit failed. Okay. Starting container process caused exit pass starting. There was no such file and directory. It should be sh. Yeah. The bin bus it did not take it. It has only sh. So I entered to the container. Now it is came out because the container died. See, it has executed now. Okay, that's not my point. Okay. Now you, sir, right? Why we need to rebuild the image? So, Sibaram, you are clear why we have to rebuild even though there is no changes to the Docker file. If you modify anything which an image is required, which a container is required to run, then you have to rebuild that image. Now, you have to store this new image. You have to store this new image. What is that image? You have to store this new image in your repository, and you have to use this image to in your production environment in your company to execute. Now 1.0, 1.0 is having the older test.sh. Now let me delete the context. Now let me delete the test.sh. I don't need this. Okay, I deleted. If I run the container, what will happen? Will it execute the script or not? Can anyone answer? Will it execute the script or not? I, because the script is not exist there, I deleted the script. The script is not there now. See, the script is not
It
there.
will be execute.
It will
It will be
execute. So why?
execute
It will execute because
because
it's part of
already
the container.
yeah,
It's already part of image, not container. It is already
yeah,
part of the image.
that image already in container. That's why.
The image is already container. How? This is very bad. This is not image is already in container. We create container from image. Then how the image will be inside the
Okay.
container?
Uh,
Bad question answer. Okay, don't give like this. So this is a very bad thing. So the image actually build time object and container is the runtime object. So whatever the instructions is already passed in the Docker file, it is already stored in the image itself. The image is a binary file. The image is a
Okay.
binary file. It
Binary file.
contains all the details, instructions, whatever is given in the Docker file. Okay, whatever instructions is given in the Docker file is already there. The file is already, that is why I told in the, remember the context area is very important. Okay, the context area is very important. You should understand
Means
what are
Ranjit, here this is a image. That is a binary file. Whatever you creating here is a binary file.
yeah,
Docker Docker is the Docker file. Whatever the container we are giving the instruction there.
what is that?
Hello.
This file, Docker file.
Yeah, yeah, Docker file. Here you are writing all the commands and all the things, no,
Yes,
to give the to instruction to the image file.
yes, exactly. All the instructions,
Exactly.
whatever is
Okay.
given here, whatever the instructions is written here in the Docker file, will be used to create the image, to build the image. Once we build the
Yes.
image, once we build this Docker file, it will create this image, and this image
Okay.
now contains all the instructions given in the Docker file.
Okay.
All the instructions is given in the Docker file along with the context, along with the path file. Suppose in this context area, I will put one image. Let me just put one image here. Let me put my Aadhaar card here into the container. Okay. This is a image. This is an image file. Okay. Image, one photo I'm going to add into the container. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to put this in the context area. Okay. Now let me modify the script to display the file. Okay. To display the file. So vi test. Let me create a new script again. So here I'm going to before password, after password pwd, I'm going to ls-l. So it will execute this command ls-l. Okay. It will display what is there inside the var folder of the container. Let's save it. Now what we did, cd docker. Oh, sorry. So I'm going to modify the Docker file to copy the photo, right? The other photo to the container path. Okay. So let me copy. Now I'm going to add one more. Svar. Okay. Now you understood what is another step I added. I just added one more copy command to copy this photo to this var folder. Okay. Now save it. Okay. Now save it. So I have to, when I modified something in the context area, I have to rebuild the image. Docker build -t, then give like Docker image. Okay. Now I rebuilt the image with a different version 1.2. Right.
Yeah.
So our image will be now, see 1.2 is there. So I have to build, now I have to run the container. So Docker run, just give the image name. Okay. 0.2. See, it executed the script and it executed what is there inside the var folder. What is inside the var folder? These are the details available, and now it is executed the sleep command. It has full folder, it has www folder, it has test.sh, which we had written in the instructions file in the Docker file to copy the file. Now you'll be saying there is a little difference in the file size. See, here it is 1.24 MB. I added one more photo, right? One more image file, and that contains 0.2 MB extra
Yeah.
to 6 MB. Okay, so this is how Dockerfile and images gets created. So we'll create different images. This is now a simple small image, example image I told you, and how it can be written. You just told you to do that. Now let's do a small project quickly on some web server Apache file. Okay. Now suppose, okay, before that, let me show you how to push this image to the registry, right? For that, you have to use some Docker volume, Docker commands. Okay, we have already used. So here command called Docker push. Docker push. So before that, what we have to do, we have to first log in with the user name. So we have to use to the Docker hub. So how to log in? So you can use Docker login hyphen username and Docker hub username. Okay. Now use
Ranjit, how much time again will we continue here?
10 minutes, another 10 minutes.
Another?
Yeah.
Okay.
Docker login hyphen username. Okay. And then you have to give the username. Okay. My username is here. Some example. My name is suppose. Okay. That's a different username. My username Docker for Ranjit. Docker for Ranjit. So I have to log in it. So it will ask for the password. I have to give the password of my Docker off. Okay.
Yeah.
So it is now, see, login succeeded. That means from my laptop, I able to connect to the Docker Hub. Docker Hub. Okay. This one I am able to connect to the Docker Hub. Now I want to push my image created to the Docker Hub registry. So what command I have to use? I have to use Docker push. Then you have to use the image name, repository name, and that is why I gave a repository name to all the images created. Okay, suppose I want to push this image, Docker push Docker for Ranjit slash ad hoc image 1.2. So what happened here? We just pushed it to the registry. Just check it, what is there. If I log in to my repository, my profile, you'll find that image. See, Docker for Ranjit slash ad hoc image. Few seconds ago, I pushed into the Docker image, Docker Hub. So you can also use this repository image. You can use Docker pull and just use this image and version 1.2. It has 1. If you go tag, the latest tag is 1.2. It has 1.2. If I go 1.2, so this is what the the details available. Okay, now I publicly put this image into the registry. Now what happens? My Aadhaar card is now publicly available to everyone, right? So if anyone, if you want to get this image, you can get that image also. Fine. So let's do that. I think everything clear now. If you have doubt or anything, we just ask me. We'll just go to the. We'll just discuss the questions, or we can meet up on Thursday. Okay, Thursday we'll just see. So now we'll discuss about Ranjit's problem, right? What is the pull request? His in his machine is not working. We'll see that one. Okay. So mostly Dockerfile is completed. One task for you guys. I'll not cover all these. Okay, whatever the 15 commands are there Dockerfile, I'll cover you in our next class. Okay, but you also meantime just do practice. Just go home and just see what are these commands are there. And there are a few questions you will get it from the Dockerfile commands that I will explain, and I'll just explain out of these commands are there. Okay, I'll just explain everything. So there are a few differences between args, var, and all. That also copy, add. What is the difference between copy, difference between add? All these things are there. So I'll show you to do that. Okay.